Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My alias is Nicholas Malson, and I welcome you to my podcast where you and I will hopefully smile once again. To those of you who have returned to my podcast, welcome back. I appreciate your stay. I thank you for your support. And to those who have come in here for the first time, welcome as well. And I do hope that you also enjoy your stay here. The purpose of this podcast is to either talk about something good or nice that has happened recently, or try and find good things in the bad ones. In other words, just trying to keep optimistic spirits high, but keep in mind that I in no way or circumstances ignore pessimistic things. I just want to focus more on optimistic ones. After all, the world is a cruel place, but this doesn't stop me from enjoying the sunsets. And I hope that this podcast will help you to at least do that. Before beginning the main part of this episode, I would like to mention Anchor.fm and thank them for helping me out with distributing this podcast onto different platforms. So far, I think they've done a good job, but more on that later. With that being said, let's begin the main part of this podcast. Okay, so this is the second time that I am sitting behind the microphone I'm using to record this podcast, and I want to reflect on the pilot episode because I do want to make sure that each episode is an improvement to the previous one. And I have shared this podcast with some of my friends, and I have given a really good feedback that I can use to just basically have a start of self-improvement, I guess. So one of my friends has mentioned that the podcast I'm making has this really good calming environment, or the atmosphere, as if you could just sit by the fireplace covered in blankets and having a nice cup of tea, or any hot drink of your choice, so hot chocolate or maybe mulled wine even, considering it's Christmas soon, if you're into that thing. And it really pleases me that I have managed to get this kind of atmosphere set up, because I do like these environments where it's just basically calm and you can just take a seat and listen to whatever you want to listen, not being bothered by the reality that is outside. And I do appreciate that. So if you do listen to this episode, you know who you are. Thank you very much. It has really made my day. The other friend also provided a really good feedback. He had some suggestions. Well, he firstly mentioned that the podcast had a really good start, which I do appreciate. Thank you very much. He has provided some ideas about having maybe like a musical background whilst the podcast is happening. And I actually have been thinking about that before he even mentioned it. But when he voiced it out to me, like when I heard this idea out loud, I started considering it a bit more. But I think the challenge that I will have to face is the copyright issues. So I will probably need to find something that will basically help me to kind of like fulfill this idea without worrying too much about copyright. But I do want to make sure that the credits are given where it's due, So I don't want to leave the musicians unnoticed, because music is a great thing in our lives. Music is something that can help you to express yourself in a very extraordinary way. Um, I'm thinking about what kind of music, though. As my friend has suggested, which I personally agree with, like something in the levels of general kind of lounge music or smooth jazz or soft jazz, and I do like this idea. I'm gonna give this a try. So, if there are any musicians which are specializing in this kind of area, and if you have any suggestions, do please let me know. And I will be more than happy to look into it and try and put this into practice. Now, with regards to the communications, I think I'll still need to sort this out. I am planning to make my episodes available on my main YouTube channel. The only thing is that I will have to publish them manually because, unfortunately, Anchor doesn't have this possibility of basically making the publication to YouTube automatically possible, at least not yet. But this is not a problem. I can certainly work with this. If I upload this manually, that's not a problem. I think I have enough ways or enough equipment and enough knowledge to do that. But yeah, I'm considering using YouTube as my main way of communicating. Although I have noticed that Spotify has those interactive polls that you can use, but I think it is not really it doesn't give you enough freedom to express your thoughts about what is going on. So yeah, I think YouTube will be the best place to go. But also what my friend has mentioned as well is making an intro to the podcast. I actually had a melody in mind. Maybe I will compose something, or he suggested his assistance with that. So I will definitely take his word into consideration. And I'm confident that I will find a way to make the podcast sound better. I have not heard anyone having proper criticism yet, but I know that there may be people who have some things to say. But when the communications will be a bit more open, please feel free to share them. I am always happy to hear opinions, no matter how good or bad they are. Because when you listen to the opinions, your mind becomes more diverse, and you can actually understand a lot of perspectives. Living in an echo chamber is never a good idea. So, yeah, that's kind of my perspective on this topic. Now, some self-reflection after kind of working with the pilot episode. Certainly, there is a saying in my native language, first pancake always goes wrong. Although I personally think that, the pilot episode did not go as bad. There are some things that I want to work on, and I'm not sure if this is something of a technical issue or a personal issue, but I am going to try to do following things. I want to firstly apologize for loud breathing. I'm not sure if this is the issue of the sensitivity of the microphone or if this is my breathing. And I think it may be a mix actually, because I have acquired a really good microphone. I mean, I just can't stop using it. It's so good. And also the breathing is just, it's just something that I can't stop doing, because as a human I have to breathe in order to live. I think it's just a matter of like trying to breathe less into the microphone, maybe try to breathe like away from it. So if I, for example, move my head to the side when I need to breathe in and breathe out, um, or also the fact that I notice that I've been breathing through my mouth instead of the nose, and maybe this is an issue as well. So I will work on that, I promise. And I think it may also be an aftermath because I've been, ill with what, and this is just simply an aftermath of it, and I do hope that it will pass. But I'm also kind of working on myself on a physical perspective because I want to be in a better shape. So I think the shape is also playing a role in that. So I think this is kind of like those mixtures of things kind of cause this breathing problem. So just keep that in mind, but it will be worked on. Also, I have noticed that there are those moments when either I have these pauses or I fill them with such sounds as and etc. etc. I'm trying to get rid of the ahs because I believe that these moments ruin the speech, although they do make the pauses a bit more alive. But I think that if I am quiet instead of doing the uhs, it kind of helps me to make the speech a bit clearer. But I personally don't know. Maybe I'm just looking into it too much. Regardless, this is something that I will need to look into as well. But these are two main things that I have noticed. And I do hope that this will be worked on. And I just heard me saying that, and it starts kind of making me feel frustrated. But I don't know. Maybe, again, I'm just looking into it way too much. But tell me what you think when the communications will be open, and hopefully I can make final conclusions when I get a bit more feedback. So, that's this part kind of got on the way. But I do want to mention the distribution part. Good news is that the distribution went sort of well. So, because Anchor is, I think it's a service made by Spotify or partnered with Spotify, the episode has become available on Spotify first. And then I was thinking, like, how am I going to distribute it to other places? Until I have received a notification saying that, your podcast is now available in another platform, and then another platform, then another platform. So what is happening is that when the episode becomes available on Spotify first, Anchor then finds a way to distribute it elsewhere. So, as I'm aware now, as far as I'm aware, this episode, as well as the previous one, should be available on such platforms as Breaker, Radio Public, Pocket Cast, and Google Podcasts. Although Radio Public had this invalid feed error, maybe this is just a temporary issue, but I do hope that, if that service is still being used, then hopefully people will be able to hear me from there. But other podcast platforms should hopefully work well, the ones that I have announced so far. And as I've mentioned before, YouTube will be something I will have to work with manually. Maybe I'll find an easier way, but for now, I'm satisfied with what is happening at the moment. But of course, there is always an area that can be improved. Okay, so that's pretty much all about reflection, and I do hope that this makes sense, and hopefully the episodes going after this one will start having some signs of improvement. Something has happened today. A few hours before I started recording this podcast, I have decided to go for a walk and buy some groceries as well. And when I went outside, I have felt tranquility, something that I have probably felt before. Or maybe I haven't. That's the thing, because this kind of tranquility it felt very unusual. Just walking outside, like as if I have been walking on clouds or on something very soft, and everything felt fine. So no worries, just nothing to be disturbed about, just just calmness, peace, and just zen, like a a feeling of an absolute bliss. And I have tried to cherish this moment for as much as I could. So I was just walking, enjoying it, and walked again. Then went to get some groceries. Bought them, and then started walking back home. And and then when I went back home, I just took a seat, grabbed the most comfortable chair that I could get, and yeah, I was just sitting down and just enjoying this moment. I'm not sure if I'm still feeling it now. Like I'm still feeling a bit relaxed, definitely. Even though this particular attempt at recording podcasts was definitely not the first, I still feel relaxed, like as if everything is fine. And I want to say that I do certainly enjoy this experience. And maybe you have experienced this as well. And again, when the communications will be a bit more opened, I hope to hear stories from you. And essentially, what I have learned from this experience is when you catch these moments, just grasp them and cherish them for as much as you can. Because nowadays, whilst we live in a very, very busy environment, these particular moments become much and much rarer. You don't notice them as much anymore. Maybe they are still there, but you just ignore them because you're so busy. But as I have witnessed it today, as I've experienced it, I think I'm feeling some sort of happiness again. And that's great. This is something that I am, looking for. But I'm also trying to find out why this has happened, so I could try and experience it again. Maybe this is because I have taken some time off work. Because, work can be quite challenging and stressful occasionally. And the usual, amount of time off that you have from work, like, in my case, it's a 5-2 schedule, so 5 days work, 2 days off. Um, this may not have been enough, but now I have taken more than 2 days off because just need to book the remaining holiday off. And I think I just had more time just to relax, and maybe that helped. But just a heads up, I do love my job, and I'm happy that I work there. But sometimes you just need a bit of time for yourself. maybe it's the fact that I have waken up at the right time. That I have gone to the bathroom at the right time. I mean, like I have gone to the shower. I have cleaned myself. Washed myself up, like just in the right time. Like everything has been aligned, just perfectly fine, just as correctly as it could be. Maybe I've just gone out at the right time, like went outside my home. I mean, um, maybe the weather was great. Because yeah, the weather was really, really good today. And yeah, I think it's just the set of events lined up in the right order, in the right time, in the right place, and they were all balanced perfectly. And I think I have noticed that balance. And I think the balance is something that we the humans, we sometimes need to just take into consideration and appreciate. And that's what I did. Like maybe not knowing about it, but I did. And here we are, just a Sunday of pure bliss. That's what I have experienced today. And after experiencing it, I do hope that you will experience it as well, because it is truly an extremely good feeling. So, yeah, tell me what you think about it. Okay, last part of today's episode, and I think we're actually matching up the time. So I think half an hour episodes, they seem to work pretty well. But, maybe there will be an episode which will be longer. We'll have to see. Something else has happened this week, and this story has really made my day, and also made my week as well. So, it happened this past Monday. I've been going to work. I usually, I use public transport. I don't drive. That particular day, or this particular week, has been quite terrible with regards to roads. There's been lots of roadworks happening at the same time, and there's actually been a few car accidents that have happened in different places at the same time as well. Certainly not good stuff. And I have noticed when we're just passing by a motorway, which was underneath the bridge that we were passing through. We have seen the fire trucks extinguishing a huge fire. I believe that this was a truck that has gone to an accident, unfortunately, and caught fire. But then I've noticed that our bus has basically begun stopping. And that wasn't the usual stop. It was in the middle of the road. There were no bus stops. And I was just thinking, what's going on? And the other passengers started worrying as well. And I have noticed, whilst checking the other side of the road, the cars were also stopping as well. And then I saw the reason why everyone had stopped. A lovely, beautiful dog was running around the road. A poor dog. I think it was abandoned. But it looked very cheerful and happy. It was just running around, wanting to kind of cause attention. Like, look at me. I'm so cheerful. I'm a dog. I'm running around. Just look at me. Pick me up. Pick me up. And I think most of the drivers have got the message, and they also want to save the dog because, that road usually was pretty busy. And the dog was just running around, and the drivers got out of the cars and, started trying catching a dog. And the dog started, running away from them. So there was, kind of a chase going on. I wish I could have joined, but I've realized what was happening way too late. For a good reason, not for a bad one. There was also a car that tried to, cut through the traffic, but some of the drivers have stopped them, telling him, look, there is a dog on the road. Just please give us some time. We're sorting this out. The driver obviously looked quite upset, but he understood the situation. He started, going back where he came from. And eventually, the dog has been caught. And that was a really wonderful moment. Just I heard someone saying, "Oh, they got the dog," and everyone was like, "Oh, that's so sweet." And I've noticed that, yeah, it was really sweet. I don't know the breed of the dog. It looked like a poodle. It was like one of those curly dogs, and the dog looked pretty old, and it definitely looked abandoned. It had like a leash, and there was no owner nearby. So, from what I'm aware so far, either A, the dog has been returned, maybe the dog just got lost, or it was a stray dog and it has found a home. The woman who has picked up the dog just picked him up, just started patting him, just like taking a good care of the dog. And yeah, essentially all the drivers got back to the cars, and the movement has continued. And that really, really made my day. It was a story I've told to like pretty much all the colleagues I could, and it was a sweet moment. A sweet moment, well, kind of a bittersweet, because the owner looks like the owner has abandoned the dog for one reason or another, and it is a sad part. But the good part is that the dog has hopefully found a new owner who will take a good care of it. And I do wish this dog nothing but happiness, because dogs are humans' best friends after all. Although I am personally a cat person, but I always am happy seeing dogs as well. But yeah, pets. Pets are good companions, and I am actually considering to get a pet. Unfortunately, my tenancy doesn't allow me to have a dog, so a cat is allowed. So yeah, I am definitely gonna get a cat at some point, but I'll need to prepare. I'll need to get my apartment ready, make it cat-proof, as some people say, and just to see how this will work out. But yeah, I do hope that that dog has found peace. I definitely hope so. So that's the story. I hope this has made your day as well, and your week. Anyways, this concludes yet another episode. I hope you have once again enjoyed this half an hour of the podcast, and I hope I have made you smiling once again. If I haven't, I'm sorry. I will try harder next time. And as I've mentioned, I do hope the communication will be much easier, so you can feel free and just talk to me if you want to, or share some thoughts which I'm going to share in this podcast. Or if you have some nice stories to tell that have happened recently, you'll be able to do so. But yeah, I do hope that by next week I will sort something out. Once again, thank you to Anchor.fm for distributing this podcast and doing a decent job with it. Once again, if you are interested, my podcast is also available. Apart from Spotify, it's also available on Breaker, Radio Public, Pocket Cast, and Google Podcasts. And hopefully starting from next week, it will be available on YouTube as well. And yeah, another Sunday gone by. My name and my alias is Nicholas Malson. And despite the world being cruel, at least we can all enjoy the sunsets. Have a pleasant evening, and thank you for listening. Goodbye.